from My Half Acre Homestead. Today we're going to make strawberry jam. Now I cook my strawberry jam. It's easier to do. Freezer jam, but I don't have a lot of freezer space because we do our own meat as well. And if for all you preppers out there, cooking it, making cooked jam and putting it in jars, gives it a longer shelf life. You can put it on the shelf. You don't have to freeze it. So what we have is, it calls for 6 cups of prepared fruit or crushed fruit, but I use almost 7 and I slice it thin because I'm going to puree it because my husband does not like lumps. We're going to use Certo Light. This means we have more fruit, less sugar. And for once, we are going to use white sugar instead of brown because we just happen to have white sugar on hand for my husband's bees. Okay, here we have the Certo mixed in with a 1/4 cup of sugar. We have 6 cups of prepared fruit, or 7 cups of prepared fruit. And we're just going to put this right in. Oops, there goes one on the floor for one of the dogs. Here we go. And now if you'll look here, I've got my lids and my rubber rings boiled, and they're keeping hot there. And in the oven, I have washed my jars, washed them, rinsed them, and put them on a cookie sheet with parchment paper at 215 degrees for a minimum of 15 minutes. That means they're sterile. Okay, so here we go. We're just going to puree our strawberries. Geez, I hope this is not too much. We're going to do it with pulse because if you just there we go. And I'm going to wager that that's 6 cups. Oh, there's a strawberry in there. Oh, I love fresh strawberries. I'm hoping this fall that we're going to be able to put in a raised strawberry bed so that come spring I will be able to. I'm just going to get my spatula, which is one thing I forgot to get. White pure. Now we're going to bring this fruit up to a boil, and then we're going to boil, but before we get it hot, this is a 1/4 cup of sugar and the package of Certo, and we're just going to mix that in there, and we're just going to make sure this is well mixed in there. And once this comes to a boil, we're going to stir in the sugar, and then we're going to boil it hard for 5 minutes. Now what boiling hard means, it means it's foaming up and bubbling up, and no matter how hard you stir, that's the key word, is hard, no matter how hard you stir, you can't get the bubbles to quit. That's called a hard boil. Okay, in here we have, it's supposed to be 4.5 cups of sugar, but it's 4 1/4 because we put a 1/4 in with the Certo. So anyway, we will be back as soon as this is boiling and we've boiled it hard for 5 minutes. Just so you know, look at the beautiful red, rich color of this jam. This is going to darken as soon as, my pot won't hold still, as soon as, we're still heating it up, it's going to darken when the sugar and the Certo. Now, an interesting point is I was just telling my mother-in-law that people didn't used to use Certo fruit pectin. They used to just puree the fruit, add sugar, and cook it until it gelled. But that's a long process, so Certo makes life easier. But if you ever want to get back to basics and really do it the old-fashioned way, you do equal amounts of fruit and sugar, no more than 4 cups at a time. Okay, 4 cups sugar, 4 cups fruit, and you just cook it and cook it and cook it until it changes to a nice dark color, and it'll sheet from the spoon, which is kind of what that's doing at the moment because it has Certo in it. But see how they kind of drop individually? But that's more of a jelly thing too. Anyway, just a point of interest. You don't need Certo, you just need to cook the heck out of it. This is coming to, as you can see by the steam, it's not really, it'll bubble if I stop stirring, but if I stop stirring, it'll scorch on the bottom. So I'm going to continue to stir. Remember what I said about a hard boil. A hard boil is when you can't stir the bubbles down. But I'm now going to add the sugar and continue to stir that in, and we're almost there. And now sometimes if you want to be really quick about this, you can warm your sugar up in the oven and it will come to a boil quicker. But as you can see, this is already starting to bubble, just adding the sugar in it. And we are just going to stir this until it turns out, this is a nice bright red color, and I'm going to sneeze. It's going to, we're going to stir it until it changes to a nice dark color and we can't boil it down anymore. Like we can't stir the oil down. I have a bit of a scorching spot on the bottom of this pot. You can see where I'm stirring, the color of the jam is changing. It's going darker. And if you do happen to hear me sneeze, folks, fear not, I will be sneezing inside my shirt front. That's a trick I use because I don't wear a long sleeve, so I don't like sneezing. I don't sneeze into my sleeve because I seldom wear long sleeves. So I just sneeze into my shirt front and keep my germs to myself. All right, now look, if you can look a little closer, you'll see the swirl of the light and the dark. It's coming along just beautifully. Just want to keep this one spot in the center of this pot. You know what, folks? I'm going to change pots. I'll be right back. Folks, we've got my better pot because it was beginning to scorch on my old copper bottom. I may have to retire it to a dog food bowl, take the handle off it and use it for something else because you know me, reduce, reuse, recycle. Okay, this is coming to a boil. And well, it's not coming to a boil, but it's that steam on the inside of the pot means, excuse me, means that it's about ready to. So I'm going to be able to turn this up a bit. Not too, we don't want it too high. A little bit less than max, a little bit more than medium, or you're going to get that scorching that I talked about. And I think I've got a couple of scorched pieces in here, but I will be able to just dip those out at the last minute. Alrighty, we're almost there. So I'll be back when we've done the hard boil. All right, folks. Now, as you can see, this is on medium now, and it's still bubbling, and it will not stop bubbling no matter how hard I stir it, and it's spitting at me. So I'm going to shut this down, and I'm going to continue to stir until it... Now, sometimes you're going to get foam, and you can skim that off if you want. Some people put a half a teaspoon of butter in their jam when they're cooking it, and that helps keep the foam down too. But when I puree the fruit, I don't necessarily have a foam problem. Also, one of the reasons I love Certo Light is you're not drenching your strawberries in sugar, okay? It's not necessarily about the lack of sugar. It is a good thing to have less sugar. However, what you're getting more of is strawberry flavor. Okay, so we are ready to jar this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to one by one take my jars out of the oven, and I am going to fill them. You gotta be careful because they're hot when they come out of the oven. We have a ladle, and we are just going to... I keep these bath mats I got they're 100% cotton, and I got them at Giant Tiger here in Canada. And they're just wonderful things for stuff like this. Now we're going to fill it almost, not to the top, but to the top of the very first ring in the jar. That gives you an inch of headspace. Alrighty, we're going to take our handy dandy funnel out. We don't need to wipe, well, no, we don't need to wipe the rim. It's nice and clean. Get my magnet. Take out a nice clean canning lid, and Bob's your uncle. You got a jar of jam, and you just let that cool until that pops down. I have some wonderful jars. I got a bunch of jars, crates, and 150 jars for $40, and I just made a wonderful discovery that some of these are the old-fashioned kind with the glass lids. So I'm going to just show you how easy they are to work with. I've ordered some Tatler plastic canning lids, and you can get those from Colorado, and they're a little more expensive, but they are reusable. They are BPA-free plastic, and you can use them over and over and over again, unlike the tin lids. And that should be just about enough for that one. Take out our handy dandy funnel. Make sure if you have spilt a little jam on the rim, make sure you take a clean damp cloth and wipe that off. But since we haven't done that, we don't need to. And I forgot to grab a fork for the rubber ring. Now, what we have here in the oven is a glass lid. And I'm very excited about this because I've been looking for these for a long time. Now I'm going to put this rubber ring on the inside of this glass lid, and the lid's really, really hot. Really, ow, 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 ow. These don't fit. All right, folks, we're back. My screw up never fails when you try something different. I was really excited about those jars. I did have rubber rings, but they weren't the right size. Oh well, that's life. We move on with the jars I have already got in the oven. And we will continue to fill our jars until the recipe is done. It's a good thing always to make more jars, keep more jars clean, sterilized, and more lids clean and sterilized than the recipe calls for just such an emergency. Here we go. Rim is clean. Fresh lid. And again, and I'm just going to repeat this process till it's done, and I'll be back and show you. There you go. 6 jars of beautiful, rich strawberry jam. Now, the recipe said that I was going to have 8. But when I pureed the fruit, I changed the quantity of the fruit. So I only have 6. Now, putting a little bit less fruit in, or whatever the case may be, might not be so bad. But never, ever, ever reduce the sugar that the recipe calls for, or your jam will not set. Anyway, this is Bev from My Half Acre Homestead. Home canned, home cooked strawberry jam. Later.